Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our session for the Streamline Operations and Empower Employees in the Modern Workplace set of sessions. This is our fourth session, which is Collaboration Utopia. But first, I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we individually gather today. I also acknowledge the Jagera and Turrbal peoples of modern-day Brisbane, in which our head office is located. I pay my respects to the elders past and present. I extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples here today. So as I mentioned before, this is our fourth session within the series of presentations we've made. And just as a recap, the first session we presented was around what's new with Surface and an overview of the Surface portfolio. The second was around modern management. So it was about helping you work smarter, not harder. The third session was Secure from Chip to Cloud, where we talked about protecting your business with Microsoft Security, but also why Surface is a great choice to make your Surface devices more secure, but your overall environment and your security posture better as well. This is our Collaboration Utopia session, where we're going to talk to Microsoft Teams Voice and Microsoft Teams Rooms. And then the last session, which is coming up on the 29th of November, is for Devices as Service. So that's around shifting from procurement of devices and you having to maintain those devices across the life cycle to procuring an outcome via Data3 with Devices as Service. If you'd like to see any of the other sessions or register for the upcoming session, please scan the QR code in the top right-hand corner and register for those sessions. So with me today, it's my absolute delight to be joined by Matt McCauley, who's our collaboration specialist. We're also joined by Steve Bedwell, our modern work technical specialist. Steve's unwell. He's actually lost his voice, but he was going to be presenting the Teams Voice session, but he's jumped on the call, being a trooper, and can answer any questions because he can type, but he can't speak. So thanks, Steve, for jumping on. My name's Scott Gosling. I'm the National Practice Manager of Microsoft Solutions here at Data3. And we've also got the Surface team on the call as well. So our team lead, Sam White, who looks after New South Wales ACT for all things Surface, Angelo, who looks after Vic, Tas, SA and WA, and also Mia, who looks after Queensland. So thanks for jumping on the call, team, and they'll be on the call to answer any questions you may have as well. So what we're going to cover today in this session, we've obviously just covered the introduction. Matt's going to cover modern telephony and also talk to modern spaces and managed rooms. Matt's then also going to step through a customer example, which is a published case study that Data3 has, who's adopted these technologies and some of the benefits they've had. And then I'm going to jump back at the end and a bit of coverage on why Data3 and a bit of a summary as well. So with that, I'm going to throw across to Matt. So Matt, over to you.
Thanks, Scott. Hello, and thank you everyone for joining the call today. So over the next 25 minutes or so, I'm going to share with you how hybrid work has accelerated the modern telephony journey, why meeting rooms are more important than ever. So I'm sure we all remember the days of having a handset, an extension number that you couldn't remember, a voicemail light that would always be blinking red. You would never, you'd make an urgent phone call, for example, somebody wouldn't pick up, you'd leave them a voicemail message, you'd be sitting there patiently waiting by the phone, come on, just ring, ring. And then all of a sudden, nature would have it, you pop to the bathroom, come back and that red light would be somehow there blinking away and mocking at you. And this cycle would sort of continue, but thankfully those days are all but gone to a certain extent. And there are new ways to communicate, but the power of the human voice is still important. And so are a lot of the functions that those handsets provided. We still have businesses who use aging telephone systems and have requirements for traditional telephony features and functionality. So let's take a look at how Microsoft is modernizing the phone system for us today. So as everyone knows, many businesses post-pandemic will be returning back to work to a hybrid work scenario, meaning that employees will have the choice to be either in the office or work remotely. Forrester's recent data shows that 75% of Australian workers preferred hybrid work for the long run. This presents a significant challenge for many businesses who built and designed their telephony platforms around the premise that users would be in the office, and have a dedicated network PC and physical phone. Most businesses have been using Microsoft Teams to collaborate, share content, do documents, etc., run meetings. So it provides an excellent platform to allow it's user-friendly, allows IT teams to provision and manage the service anywhere. There are three key pillars for the modern converged communications. Firstly, remote employees need to feel inclusive and have an inclusive experience no matter where they're working from, what device they're using. Secondly, the employees need to communicate, how the employees are communicating and versus the experience they're having in the office needs to be improved. And thirdly, IT have to provide the capabilities to the users in a relatively cost-effective manner. So Microsoft's modern telephony platform is called Microsoft Teams Phone. We all know the Teams client, however, the Teams Phone is different. It's a secure, modern communication solution that brings the power of the traditional telephony system into the Teams client. It will help increase productivity, as they say, and it will also decrease training time. But just having one application that integrates the calling component into the workflow does significantly reduce a lot of that stress and makes it a lot easier and simplifies it. The traditional telephony features we all can expect from a phone system, such as voicemail and speed dials, call routing, call forwarding, is part of this Teams Phone solution. The strategy, however, is obviously to constantly innovate and delivering the modern features that businesses need, like collaborative calling and bringing those customers, like service customers like IT and HR help desk, into like a shared call queue, and also a Teams channel is really important as well. The new desktop client experience in the Microsoft Teams app is completely overhauled. So it's been improved, usability has been improved, and Teams has eliminated a lot of those complex tabs. We've prioritized the calling history, upgraded the dial pad to make it a bit easier and adjust to people's usual expectations around telephony, especially focused on like a mobile phone. So imagine being able to make and receive phone calls as part of your call center job, for example. You could be at your favorite cafe, nature spot, for example, or even in Bali. When it comes to a streamlined setup and management, it's one admin portal that does all the job. Very straightforward. We've all seen these shifts in devices over the last year, from earbuds from Logitech, headsets from Poly, speakerphones from, let's say, Microsoft, and traditional handsets, let's say, from Yealink. There are many devices out there that support the platform, and there are various work styles and budgets to accommodate them. Most traditional phone systems or PBXs are implemented using on-premise hardware. They usually have complex wiring, they're expensive to run, and take up a lot of room and require specialized technicians to configure and maintain them. The cloud PBX at least allows greater control for IT, simplify and consolidate that management and compared to the traditional phone hardware capability that's provided years ago. It is a complete voice solution in the cloud. It does reduce a lot of the reliance on the on-premise hardware and eliminates a lot of the points of failure, especially when we're in this hybrid, hybrid workforce. Increasing the agility, obviously, to consolidate a lot of the voice management into being able to rapidly provision new users and also to do reporting and diagnostics directly from the admin center, giving you one pane of glass to do all of that, rather than having to go run through a bunch of networking profiles, logs, etc., to actually identify where problems may lie. So let's take a look at the user interface for the desktop client. It's very familiar. If we look at the calls area, you can simply see that while all of these buttons and features are very similar to what you've seen in your Teams client, the telephony system is slightly different. You can see that with the icon that's provided under calls. You can list out your contacts for both personal and your work. You can dial numbers from any mobile, or sorry, let's say to mobiles or any desk phone or international. You can forward your calls to your mobile or another person or even a group, for example, putting you in control of where you're sending that call and how that call is shaped. And voicemails can be played directly in the actual client itself, and you can skip through them, meaning there's less delay of walking through the mumbo jumbo that sometimes people refer to into it. And fast forward and even to transcribe those voicemails as well, and can be delivered very easily so you can read and scroll through them. Speed dials are an essential form of the front line and support and assisted services. So as you can imagine, it's important we need to retain them. But as you can see, making and receiving the phone calls directly within the Teams client is very seamless and it's very familiar. So the experience for the user and the mobile client is also very straightforward. It's got that same look and feel as in the desktop client, just slightly downsized. But for what it's worth, I think it's a great client, and I think it provides a really great option around mobile services, for example, in aged care. Obviously, RNs being able to walk around and make and receive phone calls. So there's definitely certain verticals that would absolutely capture having the ability to put a client directly on your mobile. You can also then look at chatting within that mobile client, collaborate on it with a document, start a call, and no need to switch the applications on your device. So the Teams phone solution is kind of made up of several components, each of them serving the solution and created a kind of common or bespoke outcome for each customer. Think about it this way: you may have traditional telephony on site. There might be a hybrid of that you want to create as you transition across, and there's certain applications that will help to service that. So from the PSTN services capability, you've got Microsoft Teams calling plans, which is directly on Telstra only at this moment in time. And there's been some stories around how long that plan is going to last for the future. Our preferred method is the Operator Connect method. It's recommended deployment, especially with one of our partners like Switch Connect, to help bring those telephone ranges into the actual Teams platform to allow us to then route them correctly. The direct routing capability allows a lot of deployment, different types of methods as well. It's great for staging migrations on existing on-prem solutions. It's great to create a hybrid solution where you might have critical services that need 24/7 operational uptime for phone systems, but you want to have a blend of both in a hybrid where you want to leverage Teams calling on the desktop for your corporate business, and then on the other side for critical infrastructure, OT, for example, where they're necessary, they'll need to have that 24/7 operational uptime and those critical services in action. The Operator Connect Mobile is coming soon, where your mobile phone number will become your Teams client extension. If we look at our partners, we see a lot of leverage with our partners in terms of the integration, the API for number provisioning directly into Teams, or even porting numbers all over from existing carrier services to new carrier services. The contact center capabilities are pretty endless as well, and not to mention the failover. So if we've got the calls that come into the PSTN, into our partners and cloud services, they can actually route them in the event of an operational downtime within the Teams client. So let's say, for example, if Microsoft Teams were to go offline for a number of hours, your calls would be routed to your mobile phone, and you'd be able to pick up them without any downtime. In addition, hosted faxing and some of the services that come from those traditional backgrounds, we can't service in the Teams phone, but we can service it with our partners, and call recording as well in addition to that there. Devices and endpoints are pretty straightforward. There's a multitude of different vendors and a number of different types of headsets, handsets, conference phones, meeting rooms, and the meeting room types to pretty much service and cater for every different situation, every type of persona, and every type of meeting room. So let's look at some of the challenges. Migrating your workforce to a new phone system, a new platform can be a bit challenging, which is why having a partner like Data3 who have proven experience in dealing with the challenges, how to get around them and identify what's important and what can be changed. We know that a well-developed migration and adoption plan is critical to the success of a modern deployment or telephony deployment. But we also know there are traditional phone system features, redundancies, call flows, and a whole bunch of other unique specific things that are catered to just telephony that may need to be taken into consideration, as they may not work within the Teams phone environment. However, there are generally plenty of ways to reinvent how that will be delivered and what that service looks like in the future. So we work with our customers to identify their current state. We usually work on what that future state looks like, and we're able to then highlight any of the gaps or any potential pitfalls that we might come up against. So we really like to do our due diligence and really identify what your environment looks like in order to help transition up and create a smooth operation. Data 3 also have have a Teams calling Launchpad. That's something that we've created in addition with Microsoft to provide funding to help you accelerate your journey into the modern communications platform with Microsoft Teams. So feel free to register your interest. There's a QR code for you to take down there. We'll be more than happy to cover off the modern telephony piece with you and understand if you're entitled to some of that funding for us to help you on that journey, get a pilot set up, and kickstart your experience. So that covers off the modern telephony part of this presentation. I'd like to take a few moments just if you've got any questions at this stage, and if you'd like to even scan the QR code to get started.
And I did, apologies at the start, I did forget to actually mention to get your phones out to scan those QR codes. So yeah, if you are interested in that Launchpad, obviously do scan that QR code.
And I think we've even got the, I think we've got them at the end as well.
Yeah, I think we do. I think we do.
So I'll briefly hand this over to Scott. He's going to take us a bit of a minute through a tale of a client's meeting room. So this is an example, a challenge that's been passed across us, and it was quite interesting with the data that's been pulled together. So without further ado, I'll pass you back to Scott, and then he'll pass it back to me, and I'll take on the next part. Thanks, Scott.
Thanks, Matt. Let's jump to that next slide. Yep. So it's interesting when we engage with this customer to talk about their meeting room estate, and they had feedback around dissatisfaction with the meeting room experience. The customer was trying to encourage their staff to return to office, and they were wondering why they were struggling and getting really adverse feedback around their meeting room experience. So we started with talking to the customer to say, and this is a common challenge in that the customers we engage haven't baselined what the meeting usage is within their organisation. So in this customer example, 100% of their meeting rooms are on Cisco meeting room hardware. But when we actually then said, okay, well, let's just measure the meeting usage within your organisation, 94% of the meetings conducted within this customer were hosted on Microsoft Teams, and only 6% of their meetings are hosted on WebEx. Now, it's actually pretty easy in the Office 365 admin console to go in and actually get usage stats across a period of time, and it can be done on WebEx as well, to actually baseline what the meeting usage is. And you can even get down to number of minutes on voice, number of minutes on video, to actually get really good usage data. And the challenge with that was it became very obvious very quickly for this customer that everybody at home were one-click joining from their devices at home into a Teams meeting. But because they had a hybrid experience in the office, they were delivering a pretty poor experience for their users. And that's how they're getting really poor dissatisfaction around the collaboration or the meeting room experience, because there wasn't parity between the remote experience and the office experience. And the customer then made the decision based on the business case with that data to move forward and adjust their meeting rooms to what their people are using. So 94% of the people are using Teams, but 100% of the rooms are on Cisco. It just didn't make sense to continue down that path with making investments. Now, you can interop with Cisco to sweat that asset if you wanted to, but when it comes time to refresh those meeting rooms, because they do have a operational life and support, does it make sense to refresh 100% on Cisco? Now, there are some announcements that Matt will talk to that may make sense to continue on that route, but it may not as well. So depends on the strategy and what your path is, but understanding your baseline usage and what people are using right now is very instructive as you start looking at your return to office plans and trying to make sure you have a great meeting room experience. So just interesting data point from a customer, and it may not, as a teacher, the customer's like, I haven't even looked at what our usage stats are in meetings. So really interesting exercise for that customer. So Matt, with that, back to you, mate, to talk about meeting rooms.
So good insight. in the next part of the presentation, I'm going to talk through around modern meeting spaces and our managed rooms service offering. So this is a bit of a busy diagram, but let's work through it. The simple fact is that hybrid has transformed the way we work realistically. You know, we all remember where we were in terms of we had standardized work hours, we had dedicated focus and work time for most of our environment that we were in. We had an environment built for work that was controlled, the number of distractions that were around us so we could get better focus. Over the last year and a half, we've undergone, you know, a radical shift, you know, kind of global experiment, which has led to obviously a slightly decrease in work-life balance. But it has, on average, almost doubled the amount of meetings that we're having. Many of us have to do a total shift, you know, to remote work. In that environment, staying engaged is significantly harder. You know, we had to figure out how to deal with the kids being around all the time and the home environment that wasn't designed for work. Now we're coming out of that, you know, we're coming out the other side of that realistically. And a lot of people are then returning to the office, but what they're returning to, you know, it isn't quite as well, or is not as the way it was like when they sorry, it isn't as quite the same as what they had before. And we have a situation where we know people who have gotten used to being able to manage their own time, their work-life balance, and be able to collaborate and, you know, own their own time. You know, they want to have a bit of a work style and be able to schedule that work from when they feel like it, to get the most productivity out of themselves, to understand what make sure that they can attend remotely or go in if that, you know, makes them feel more included. They really need to have, we really want to feel like there's more equal participants in a certain situation. So in other words, we don't want to be forced to go into an office because we feel we're not being as valued or getting enough value or being equal enough within, you know, from being remote. And perhaps even harder is everyone's still in these daily interactions to feel, you know, more, having more connections, a more natural and a more immersive experience, so that we don't end up in the situation where we have people feeling sort of disconnected, you know, feeling a bit discomfort, and not feeling like they're all sharing the same space. You know, this is kind of the world we're living in, right? And when we talk to customers, generally the word is it's a bit of confusion. You know, people are telling us that, look, the business isn't the same as what it was last year. You know, even people coming back in the office has been quite difficult. You know, they've got people now, you know, the core things is how do we retain some of that talent as well? When people do feel disconnected and they're not providing enough value to a company, you know, that can really cause a lot of problems with that. And so, you know, building meeting equity is important to feel like you are connected and you feel like you're productive and you're actually creating a culture. So we look at some data points, which I'll talk to a little bit. This is from Microsoft, so it's a global reach. So keep that in mind. But it's not too far-fetched to say, you know, 57% of remote employees are saying they're likely to consider shifting to a hybrid work model, you know, in the year ahead. If you consider that there, so that's pretty much people telling you, we're currently working remote full time, and now we are considering coming back into the office a number of days a week to create some level of a hybrid model. And I think that Australia has probably done very well for them in addressing that. We've probably been slightly of the leaders in some of that aspects. You know, 54% of leaders say that their company is investing in technology and the space to redesign the meeting rooms and make them more hybrid friendly, you know, within the next coming year. So we are acknowledging it. And I think those numbers, that percentage will probably increase significantly as we start to see, you know, people wanting to return and actually showcasing that they are very much going to spend a lot of time in that hybrid situation where it's more on-prem or more at the office than it is at home. In saying that there, you know, 52% of employees are saying, you know, using, you know, a digital space or a metaverse space, for example, to hold Teams meetings is something of interest to them. You know, we can expect that. I mean, I've already seen some of that online. I've seen people using, you know, these metaverses to be able to have these meetings. Again, it's sort of, it comes down to different types of people. Some people crave, you know, to be the in-office experience, and some prefer to work remotely. and some prefer these sort of VR experiences to get their engagement, and it is quite immersive. So it is clear, though, overall, that employees and managers and leaders across multiple industries still value the benefits of hybrid workspace. So this is an interesting one. Let's look at pre-pandemic, where realistically we were all in the office. We were all able to collaborate. We had impromptu meetings. We were able to read body language. We were having very immersive conversations, and we were able to get a lot of productivity done of that. We were well connected, and we created a good culture. During the pandemic, obviously, there was a playing field that ended up happening. Everybody was disparate. Everybody was trying to find a level of comfort within their own zone, and some people are more prominent in meetings than others, and so taking spotlights is quite difficult, and meeting equality can be difficult. And some of these spaces is what we need to address in the future, because we are going to continue to have, based on the data, based on people's, based on what we know right now, we do know that it's going to be a hybrid workforce. And so today, many of these spaces that we have, our meeting room spaces, aren't equipped. And that's everything from huddle room spaces to your small, medium, and even your larger rooms. They're not equipped to deal with some of these inclusive hybrid meetings that we really want. And so what we're really trying to do is, how do we keep remote participants who want to be involved, who want to participate, but also who obviously crave a little bit of the in-office experience? How do they obviously be heard and obviously collaborate equally? So let's talk about it. What happens when we begin to transition back to work? Well, we've got to maintain a feeling of equity across the meeting experiences, like we talked about. We need to feel empowered that working from home is as good or is better, as good, or if not better, as being in the office. So that's also important. How we do that is another thing. To give people an in-room greater sense of connection, to remote participants, and support the collaboration both, before, during, and after the meeting. Microsoft has created a new content layout called Front Row. It's quite impressive, actually. Visually, this one is around the layout that moves the video gallery to the bottom of the screen. It also centers and highlights using the technology, whether the cameras that we've got or some of the technology built into the Teams platform, to isolate people's faces, to be able to actually bring them front on attention and perfectly centered, so that we're actually getting those people, those remote participants, we're seeing them almost face to face in the horizontal plane, similar to if they were in the same room as us. Additionally, the meeting chat has been brought clearly in, so people can sit there, chat, and have a conversation in real time while they're consuming the content, and while they're actually seeing everybody in that room as well. So it's very immersive, and it's an experience that if you haven't tried, I'd seriously recommend it. Either go to your nearest Microsoft office to cater for that there, or contact us and we'll help to facilitate that. But the whole design is to foster a deeper sense of connection with the remote attendees, and clearly see and engage within the chat conversation at hand. I know from my point of view, we do a lot of chats within our meetings as people are presenting, and it becomes relative, and it's good to see that it's a conversation flower, and it really does help to build connection, and it is part of our human experience to be able to talk during certain meetings. So one of the most challenging experiences during the pandemic was trying to brainstorm. And so, people weren't co-creating very well. People used to gather around more of a whiteboard or a notepad to brainstorm in real time. And nowadays they feel it's a bit of a struggle to collaborate freely in hybrid meetings. So while, I love a good whiteboard session, I don't miss licking the end of that, empty marker, or or having any tissues there came off the desk to clean out some permanent marker that somebody's left behind because they thought it was a white marker, and all of that carry on. But nevertheless, we've got new technology that can help facilitate that. However, I still don't think that those traditional whiteboards will ever go away. I think they're the cornerstone of the office spaces, and they remain a natural tool for most people. But an in-room whiteboard doesn't allow, and it does exclude a lot of the joining team participants externally from their locations, so they're not able to actually interact with that whiteboard. So let's talk about the Microsoft whiteboard itself. Everyone can come together across different digital canvases. They can work with the Microsoft whiteboard and easily add people into the session. Within the Teams room, you've got shared whiteboard, and you can see the front row room, and you can engage with people, and you can actually allow them using their companion devices like their mobile phone, their tablet, or anything that's touchscreen to then obviously annotate and work through those in a collaborative manner. So one of the ways in which we define customer requirements is trying to understand users' behavior. Okay, so people use PCs to collaborate on the Teams client, but their experiences come to life in different ways because users experience and engage with Teams on, let's say, USB peripherals, sometimes mobile phones, and sometimes displays. But throughout the day, we transition generally from being an individual contributor or worker within, let's say, the business itself, let's say at the office, to group-based meetings. And doing so, we find ourselves moving from our individual space to a group space or a meeting room or a collaborative space. So next, we need to consider what devices might be appropriate for those spaces depending on their use case. If people are on the go, they use their mobile phone. In the office, they might be using a PC or a PC with a peripheral, with an all-in-one device, for example, sitting there, or even an IP desk phone. In collaboration spaces, people will be more than likely using an all-in-one device like a Surface Hub or a room system like a Microsoft Teams room from Logitech, Yealink, or many of the other providers. And while this transition from space to space, device to device, and it may be complex in some aspects, it is actually quite seamless. And when you unify all those devices together with Microsoft Teams, it does actually become way more straightforward and a lot more seamless to navigate. So for those businesses who have invested quite heavily, especially over the last, let's say, 5 years or so, in-room technologies that have generally used standards-based video or traditional, I want to say, video, which is still here and still prevalent and still being used globally. There is actually some cloud interop capability services to bring those meeting rooms that are potentially not supported by Microsoft Teams, but to actually facilitate an interoperability service to bring those rooms into a Microsoft Teams meeting. So you're actually bringing the room-based system that is potentially maybe slightly older, maybe it doesn't support Microsoft Teams. You want to bring that meeting room into Microsoft Teams meetings, then an interop service is perfect for you. And especially if you're thinking around transition, not everybody can afford and get a budget together to go and replace every single room. And people still need to look at the proof of concept, make sure you've identified the types of rooms. And even in some cases, people are evaluating how much real estate they're giving to each of those meeting rooms, some of which are even subdividing their meeting rooms from large rooms into 3 smaller rooms, or even in some aspects, medium rooms into huddle spaces. So again, working through those services while you're transitioning, while you're evaluating, putting this in place will allow you to speed that up. So let's talk quickly about managed rooms. This is quite new and exciting for us. I think it's been around, managed services have been around for quite a while, but I don't think people have seen the value of it when it comes to actually managing a room. And I think that's changed quite considerably, certainly with the customers that I've been speaking to over the last 5 months. I've seen a massive shift to people considering now these rooms as essential services. So as hybrid grows, the reliance on meeting rooms significantly increases. And I've often heard, customers, as I said, referring to them as, essential services for their business. If we've got 2 groups of people, some working at home, and let's say nearly 99% of meetings will have at least one participant that's coming in externally. So again, there is a bit of a reliance here that those services, that meeting room is actually operational. So we can also help build out a small, a medium, and large room package, which will include the deployment, the management, and to make the experience a lot easier. And we can build that into an OpEx or a CapEx model. Data3 are just finalizing these meeting rooms as a service. And to be honest, we're really focused on trying to simplify and support the meeting rooms as a whole. Meeting rooms can be complex with, AV integrators that would provide, let's say, blind systems, lighting control systems, all the way up to, let's say, the screens. But mostly it's really coming down to microphones, PCs, the TV screens, the cabling. There's a lot of moving parts, and customers don't have the internal experience, and partners generally stick with what they know. So if it's an AV partner, they don't know much about Microsoft Teams. If it's let's say an integrator, they don't know much about the AV side of things. So really having a blended model where you're taking the best of the best and working together to create a single solution is the most important part of building an actual meeting room as a service. Data3 will be working with a simple solution and a set of components and leveraging our technical engineers, our AV partner, and our vendors, let's say like Logitech, Poly, and Yealink, for example. So Data3 also have a Launchpad. We talked about the calling Launchpad, and we actually have a Teams Launchpad as well. So this will help you understand what is possible. There is some funding capability around that as well to help you on that journey. So please feel free to reach out to us. We can help you down that path and help to strategize that next step and get you on your journey. Take a few minutes there just so you can scan the QR code if you like. As we talked about at the end of the actual deck, we will have these up again. So I might move forward in a second. All right. So we talked about the managed meeting rooms. There are really two paths to the management of a Microsoft Teams room. The first path is the self-managed journey, and that's the one that the internal IT team will provide the support for the rooms, engage with the vendors and the AV partner to, in the event of an incident, an upgrade, a fault, an operational issue, then your IT team are going to then work with all of those different partners to build out and identify and resolve that incident. As rooms can be complex and the skill set to self-manage can be challenging, especially as businesses are actually quite constrained with, especially around resource constraint in IT, is going to be a big problem. And I think that's one of the key considerations is we need to identify how complex these solutions can be. Some cases they can be simple and some they can be complex. The second path you can take then is that the Microsoft Teams Room as a service, or MR as a service, is offering both the support and offering another option around the support and management path. So in other words, the benefit of going with that is that we are the single point of contact for any Teams Room related incident or consideration around upgrades or operational uptime. We'll also be able to handle all the engagements with the vendors and partners that create the seamless support experience. In other words, we'll be dealing with the AV partner to get that piece done. We'll be dealing with your Logitech, your Avaya, your Logitech or Poly or any of those other business, and we'll even be dealing with Microsoft as well. So we take all of that, one throat to choke, and we'll actually do all of the work for it to make sure we get this service back up and running as soon as possible. So as I said, the service is composed of a layer of operational services. We actually have a RACI chart as part of that there. If you'd like to come and see us and talk about that, feel free to. We'll be happy enough to talk through what we're offering to our customers and when we're actually going to be kicking that off, because certainly it's very much hot off the press at the moment, and it's certainly something that we are seeing a huge amount of demand for. So that sort of concludes the presentation on the modern spaces and managed rooms. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to put that in the chat, and someone will let me know. Okay, I'll move. All right, I'm going to take a bit of time to go through a customer example. Steve was meant to present on this here, but he's gone on well. So I'm going to take on, I'm trying to navigate this as best I can. So what I'm doing, I'm going to share with you a recent customer story. Now, it's Shine Lawyers, which is quite a reputable brand based upon New Zealand and, sorry, based out of Australia and New Zealand. They had really a number of goals to achieve. But the ultimate goal for Shine was to introduce a new modern telephony system, new modern meetings, and collaborate a little bit better than what they had previously. So one of the key things we need to do, what we needed to eliminate, was the frustration that's been currently going on and improve the user experience, both within the organization and outside of it. So at the time, Shine was operating on Skype for Business on-premise, and the platform was approaching its sort of end of life, if you will. It was a bit aged in terms of voice. They've been running it for many years, so very comfortable with the Microsoft platform as a whole. And in their meeting rooms, they were still having some issues with, how technology that was considerably dated, and it was quite frustrating. Shine also had a bit of trouble with reliability. Hosting meetings above more than 25 users at a time became quite a struggle. And in fact, the reliability had really degraded quite considerably, and the quality of the actual call was bad as well. It could take up to 10 minutes even to join meetings, which is unacceptable this day and age. And especially when their lawyers charge at 6-minute increments, you can imagine the bills and the frustration that would cause internally. The content sharing for the meeting room is also a major pain point, and the legacy VC endpoints that were in there were becoming a bit unreliable, a bit difficult to operate, hard to control, and they didn't have a lot of features and functionality. Nothing like we talked about previously, where we were really getting that inclusive experience and feeling that people were being, contributing to the meeting. We also had that the inconsistent meeting layouts across the organization was very difficult. In other words, people were getting very different experiences and causing very much a lot of frustration. So what Data 3 ended up proposing was a solution that was based on Microsoft Teams, the platform itself. Shine had already invested a significant amount of money into the Microsoft 365 licensing, so they were already entitled to it. And they'd already made some adoption with Microsoft Teams to collaborate during the pandemic. What they really wanted to do was try to identify, how do we take our phone system, our PABX, if you will, our Skype for Business system, and we move that into a Teams phone system. So we needed to obviously leverage the existing licensing. That was a plus, no cost available there. We obviously want to do a bunch of room audits and identify the layouts, standardize on the room types, small, medium, large, and we wanted to have the same look and feel. So we leveraged Logitech to create a solution that was going to be suitable for that. The cloud solution, there was no on-premise infrastructure to support. Very simple, very easy to use, which means less servers to look after, potentially issues that are going to happen, connectivity issues that potentially would have happened as well. And that is one of the key considerations that we had to work with. Switch Connect was also brought in, again, a partner of choice for us, to really blend all of the different number ranges from the existing carrier services and bring them all into a solution that would be a bit more flexible. And I'll talk about that in a few more minutes. So as we talked about, the key solution components, over 800 users across 50 locations. You've got a bunch of PSTN connectivity that was disparate. It was different actual SIP services in different regions, all brought into a single cloud service. So again, cost savings there is appropriate. And over 37 Teams meeting rooms and growing at this moment in time. So it's a good study. Sorry, it's a good example of how both the modern telephony and the modern meeting rooms can be updated and brought into our post-pandemic or hybrid work solution that we've got today. So I'm going to take you through the migration approach. It's a little bit techy, which some of you will probably want, and the other side is to understand a bit of the complexity from the management layer and why it's important that a good partner can take you through this journey. So the first thing is we needed to understand the requirements, and that was we needed a site-by-site approach to migrate everyone across. The difficulty is that a lot of these users were on different locations. So in other words, some number ranges were down in, let's say, over in New Zealand, but they've moved to Australia. Those numbers were still carried over. So we really needed to actually reduce that complexity and actually bring all of those services and all those number ranges together. We obviously needed to do the voice and the meeting rooms and cut them over at about the same time. So each site was identified. We cut them over in a phased approach, but effectively it was as soon as you leave for the day, you come back the next day, you are on Microsoft Teams, and you'll have a bunch of support and adoption services to aid with that. But all of your number ranges, everything's ported across. And even though the customer was using Microsoft Teams client, it means they just remove the Skype for Business client and continue on. And they would have been trained for that prior to this cutover. I talked about a little bit about the challenges there, which is, we wanted to have a bit more flexible migration approach because we couldn't just do it all in one go. And even doing it as small increments would have been a bit more challenging. So doing it side by side was definitely the best option. And obviously, logistically wise, there's a whole bunch of different timeframes that were going on, and there was a bit of an impact in project budget. And we really needed to reduce that risk, and we needed to obviously pull that together. So building out this solution that was built out by Steve was absolutely empowerment. So let's talk about how we did it. So to just give you an overview, we have the old PSTN provider, which is connected into a SIP border controller, a session border controller, and that was all on premise. And the Skype for Business environment, again, still on premise. The first thing we did was then we got Switch Connect to set up that trunking into their existing environment, into the actual SBC or session border controller. Then we enabled PSTN calling in the Teams environment that was leveraging the Switch Connect cloud service. So now we've got connection both with the on-premise solution. We've also got the connection with the Teams phone system, and we've integrated both of them. And now we have PSTN connectivity. The third thing that was done then was we took all of the old PSTN provider number ranges and we ported them all over to Switch Connect. At this point, then all inbound and outbound calling from Skype for Business is via the Switch Connect platform. The fourth thing, we integrated the SBC with the Shine Lawyers Active Directory. And this allows us to dynamically route calls to Microsoft Teams as they're migrated. So in other words, we can then shift parts of the business, parts of those locations over in, and we can do that scripted. So in other words, they're no longer going to be using, let's say, Skype for Business. They'll be actually leveraging Teams. And as we've seen, we can see that they are now registered to Microsoft Teams and no longer going to Skype for Business. So all the calls will go through there and they'll be leveraging it. Fifth thing we did then was implement the Teams rooms. So we put in brand new Teams rooms, registered to Microsoft Teams. All of the phone calls in and out of those Teams rooms were going through Switch Connect. All of the registration was all done through the Teams service itself. Very straightforward. We replaced old kit with new kit. And once it's all done, we got rid of the old stuff. So we decommissioned everything. All the on-premise stuff is gone. And now it's all in Microsoft's cloud service called Teams phone system. In addition, I just wanted to bring up some of the room devices that were leveraged. So in the huddle room spaces, common areas, effectively rooms that you need to have a phone for certain use cases, even emergency phones, things like that there. And we've seen these even in escalators, but for the most part, we used Poly for those handsets. In addition was the small meeting rooms. So we went with Logitech with the Meetup. Again, we went for medium rooms and even large rooms with rallies, etc. And all of the different options we've got available there, providing an excellent meeting room service. Again, bringing through that inclusive nature, which is we want to do the front row. We want to be able to have the camera capability to identify each individual's face and actually bring that up front into the meeting as a participant, giving us more engagement. So let's talk about these outcomes. So this is some of the great feedback, and we've actually done a really good case study on this. We're actually looking at doing, it's currently a written case study. We're actually looking at doing a video case study with them now. But we take that, you know, what they've said, right? We have 750 people in our town hall meetings, whereas before they had unpredictable performance with Skype for Business. There were difficulties with there. Now you've got a predictable performance. We've got a single familiar application. You're not changing between the two. You're actually using one solution. Walking into any meeting room, it's a consistent experience. You know, it doesn't matter whether it's the marketing meeting. It doesn't matter if it's senior leadership, solicitors, IT. It all works. It's one button to join. Everybody knows how to do it. Plug it in. It's very easy to actually, and it's very simple in terms of getting used to, and it's very easy for people to, I suppose, adopt and adapt to their new existing spaces. With staff working more efficiently, costs have been minimized and the experience is improved for all our clients. Moreover, we've actually reduced a lot of that cost, and the legal proceedings have been a bit stressful in that sense. So they've actually been able to reduce that down. So I'll quickly pass back to Scott, because I've just realized we've run over a bit of time here.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. I'm just going to finish up very quickly, but we do appreciate you sticking through this part of the presentation, but very powerful content there from Matt in terms of especially the evidence around the customer story. So I'll just, so we talked about the Launchpads. You had the opportunity to scan those QR codes, so I encourage you to look at those to get started on that journey. Then there's deployment, and all the way through to deploy Assist in Microsoft Teams Rooms hardware to get that calling and meeting room hardware and solution deployed. In terms of why Data 3, we're an advanced specialization partner in modern work for 4 areas, but we've got 10 advanced specializations overall. We're a globally recognized partner with Microsoft, with their Partner of the Year for Device Distributor Reseller, as well as Surface Plus Partner of the Year worldwide with Microsoft. And we've got partnerships with all the major vendors that actually supply hardware in these solutions, which includes Microsoft for Hub, Logitech, Lenovo, Poly, and others. We've delivered a stack of modern work projects, including 170 collaboration projects as well. And remembering also security is a key component of this in terms of protecting these endpoints and managing them so they don't get compromised. And we've actually got those endpoint projects there as well. We've been a partner with Microsoft since '94. We're an Azure Expert MSP, and we've got over 140 certified staff with Microsoft, and we're their biggest partner in Australia across all 3 clouds, which includes Azure, M365, and Dynamics. So look, we've got the capability to procure. We've got the capability to integrate the solution. We can also manage it. Matt alluded to that with the managed room offering. And then also support your licensing to make sure you're compliant with things like E5. We can deliver the workshops. We're an ESIF partner with Microsoft, so we can leverage vendor funding from Microsoft with ESIF to deploy these solutions. So we really are that end-to-end partner that can deliver these voice and meeting room solutions and have key partnerships, both in voice with partners like Switch Connect, but also our hardware partners as well. So in summary today, you've heard Matt talk about the modern collaboration with voice and how you can natively integrate Teams and that great example with Shine Lawyers about how we then progressively integrate that modern voice solution, but then decommission the legacy experience as well. Matt also talked about the managed room and modern room solutions and making sure there's that equity between the remote participant and the in-person participant in the office, but making sure that you actually understand what your people are using in their meeting experience and making sure your rooms reflect that, and there's equity between the in-person experience in the meeting room and the remote participant as well. And we talked about those launch pads. So please use the QR code to register for the calling Launchpad or the Teams Launchpad. You can have both and get started on the journey to get those solutions deployed. So with that, thank you. Please reach out to any of the team if you need more information. You can connect with Matt or I on LinkedIn or Steve, and we can connect with you for more information. Matt, brilliant presentation. Also did the Stephen Bradbury in terms of coming in to do the calling part. But for Steve, thanks Steve for jumping on, but really good session. So thanks for that content. And if you've got any more questions, please reach out to any of us and we can support you with any more information you may require. With that, thanks for your time. Apologies we ran over slightly, but there's a lot of great content to get through. And thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.